Welcome, everybody, to an all-new reaction and review. Tonight, guys, I'm going to be watching a horror movie from 1987. That movie is Hellraiser. Yeah, now, all my life, I've heard a lot about the Hellraiser franchise, but I have never once seen a single Hellraiser film. I don't really even know much about this franchise. I know it has something to do with a box that's found and demons from another dimension, one of which, the main demon, is called Pinhead. And that is about as far as my knowledge on this film goes. I know there's about 8 or 9 in the franchise, but I'm not going to worry about those other sequels until I watch this one. Now, I've heard mixed things about this franchise. I've heard from a few people that the first 3 or 4 films are really good, but the rest of them are just pieces of shit. And I heard from my father that the first one's good, but the rest were just trash. I don't really know. This film could go either way. I'm certainly hoping it's going to be good, but then again, most horror movies from the 80s kind of have a cheesiness to them, but I'm usually a fan of those cheesy horror movies of the 80s. Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, so on. And Pinhead is one of the horror movie icons that I frequently hear get mentioned. So I'm really going into this movie with an open mind, and I hope it's going to be good. But the only way I'm going to find out if this movie's any good at all is if I shut the fuck up and I push play. And I'm going to do it right now. So, without further ado, let's sit back, chill out, and watch Hellraiser. Did that fucking bitch just seriously step on a cigarette on the floor of her house? Seriously, guys, that chick was smoking a cigarette and she puts it on the ground and just steps on it inside her fucking house. Does she not have any class? This movie's just started and I'm really struggling to like any of these characters so far. Those are some fucking gross looking cockroaches and maggots, Jesus Christ. That's certainly really gross, I'll give that credit. But other than that, that opening was kind of shit. And the rest of this hasn't been so good so far. I'm certainly hoping it picks up really quickly, guys, because so far I'm not impressed.
You have to come to us.
You know, guys, I'm freaking 25 minutes in. Nothing has barely happened in this movie. And I'd really enjoy it if just one of these characters were in any way likable, but we're not. The dad's a douchebag, the mother's a cheating bitch, and the daughter's just a floozy.
Does it still hurt?
What?
Please give me a likable character, and I've seen Hellraiser or Pinhead 1 minute total in this movie. And I just saw a special effect where this thing came out of the attic ground. The special effect looked kind of shit and kind of decent, but it kind of looked like a spider at first, but then it just turned into a human skeleton. It didn't make any fucking sense. The scene was edited really shit, and I'm just really fucking wanting this movie to pick up, guys. Really. I'm getting bored as shit over here. You know, guys, we're almost halfway through this movie. No, actually, we are halfway through this movie. And nothing interesting is happening. This movie is boring as shit. The acting is terrible. The effects are barely nice. And I'm almost struggling to stay awake right now. Please, for the love of God, I'm not begging for much. Just give me fucking something. So I'm bored as shit with this movie. I'm just saying, guys. Well, guys, that was really disgusting. I just witnessed a man get his face bashed in with a fucking hammer. His teeth got knocked out too. I mean, that was certainly cool. I guess that's one positive. I wish the rest of the movie was as good as that, but What the hell? It's a positive, and it's the only positive I can give so far in this entire fucking movie, so... But I guess I'll take it with a grain of salt. You know, guys, I really don't understand why I fucking thought watching this was a good idea. This movie has been on fucking an hour, and nothing has happened. Nothing interesting is going on. These characters are shit. This writing is shit. This dialogue sucks. The special effects are barely decent. Why the fuck is this even a movie? Ugh. I'm really waiting for this movie to end, guys, because this movie is just fucking awful. It truly is, and it's torturing to watch. Well, guys, the movie's more than half over. There's still less than 30 minutes left, and now they're deciding to get halfway interesting. Only took them an hour and 10 minutes almost, but they're finally fucking doing something interesting. And I finally got to see Pinhead again. It's too bad I no longer really give enough of a fuck to bother caring.
We came, now you
Creatures look real cool though, the Cenobites. So, that's positive, I guess. And holy fuck, that thing has a creepy ass face. So, there's that, I guess. You know, guys, I'm just saying, this movie probably would have been a hell of a lot more interesting if they had focused on the Cenobites, Pinhead, and the Cenobites instead of these worthless douchebag characters. Not one of these characters are in any way likable. The shit that happens to them I could not care less about. So if we would have had a whole goddamn movie about Pinhead and the Cenobites, I would have been a lot more fascinated. But this trash can go fuck itself. And I can't wait for this movie to fucking end. Well, guys, that was Hellraiser. That ending sucked. No. Shut the fuck up. I don't give a shit about your credits. Just shut up. Kiss my fucking ass, movie. That was Hellraiser. Jesus fucking Christ. Wow. Where the fuck to start? Well, when in doubt, start with the writing. This movie was written and directed by a man by the name of Clive Barker, which is apparently based off of one of his short stories. Clive Barker, I ask you, when you were writing this movie, what the fuck were you thinking? You had such an interesting idea with Pinhead and the Cenobites right there in front of you, and you could have taken a big advantage of that, and instead you gave us a movie full of unlikable dipshits that I was just happy to see die, and not all of them even died. Some of them were still left by the end. And that just made me fucking pissed off. No, guys, the characters in this movie are as shallow as they come. Nobody in this is likable. You got the dad, who's just a pussy-ass dipshit, douchebag, that I don't give a shit about. You got his wife, who's just a cheating bitch, that has no real character to her other than she bitches a lot. You got the freaking daughter, who's just a fucking moron, and her goddamn dialogue was absolutely hideous. Oh, by the way, the amount of times I heard the phrase, "come to daddy," in this fucking movie makes me cringe. Yeah, that's the kind of dialogue I was working with throughout this entire goddamn movie, and that's just pathetic. Who else do you got for characters? You got the frickin' Frank, who's the father's brother, and he's having an affair with the wife. Yeah, and he's just his character is just that he's a prick. That's pretty much it. That's all I can say about him. The only character development here is that the freaking daughter hates the mother. They don't really explain why. She just kind of does. And that the freaking mom's having an affair. That's all we get for character depth. Now, when it comes to the Cenobites, though, the Cenobites are like the most interesting part of the film. Because you got Pinhead, and you got this whole other bunch of people, Cenobites, and they were all really interesting. But when you really count the all together, Pinhead is in the movie for maybe a total of 6 or 7 minutes total, possibly even less, which doesn't really make sense to me when I really think about it, because Pinhead's face is on the poster of the Hellraiser movie. So, if you're advertising this guy's face, I'm gonna automatically assume he's a big part of the movie. But if he's only in it for 7 minutes of the goddamn film, why the fuck is his face on the cover? Wouldn't it have made more sense to have like the box? Because of the box in this movie, the box brings the Cenobites from their dimension, because they live in a dimension that tortures people for whatever the fuck reason. They like to stick hooks in people and shit, etc. And the box has more screen time in this film than Pinhead does. So wouldn't it have made more sense when you're fucking advertising this movie to have that box on the cover instead of Pinhead, because he's barely in the fucking thing? I don't know. Maybe I just am the only one in this fucking world that sees this movie and has a brain, because I thought it was shit. Oh, and I'm looking at some of the credits, and apparently some of them actually do. Cenobites do have names. The only one I knew was Pinhead, because I've heard it so many times when referred to as fucking Cenobite movies. Now, when I think of movie villains, I always hear Pinhead because that's what people list him as. But I've never once heard him get mentioned as Pinhead in this movie. The names of these Cenobites are never said, and it doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah, so guys, writing here, as far as I'm concerned, is really bad. It's one of the weakest points. The plot goes absolutely nowhere. You just settled with a bunch of unlikable dipshit characters when you got all these interesting Cenobites characters that they could have done so much more with, but apparently the director didn't see fit to take advantage of something so interesting. So Clive Barker, congratulations, you made a shit fucking movie. What else? Let's move on. Let's talk about acting. The acting in this movie is fucking horrifically bad. Mostly that comes from Christy, the daughter, and the fucking Uncle Frank. The Uncle Frank especially, his acting is horrifically, notoriously bad. I could barely take his character seriously, because he's always trying to act like this tough badass who has a freaking switchblade. Oh, I don't really give a shit if you have a switchblade, because you're not that scary, because his acting was that fucking bad. And Christy was no better. She was just whining and bitching the entire time. And the actress, this was her first movie, and she did a fucking awful job as it. And the rest of the cast are no freaking better. The only people in this movie that I can think of that gave halfway decent performances, there was this hobo that seemed like a bunch of times throughout the movie. Didn't really make any sense up until the end. I won't spoil it for whoever decides to watch this piece of trash, but that he's some sort of creature in the end. And he gives a fucking better performance than half of the people in here. And that's really saying a lot, because he doesn't say a single fucking word throughout this film. But he's still more creepy and more interesting and gives a better performance than the fucking main leads. Oh, you know how sad that is when I have to compliment his acting over the main fucking four of the movie? That is just terrible, guys. Fuck's sake. What else? Who else? Oh, let's talk about the acting of Pinhead. Like I said, he's only in the movie for a total of 7 minutes, but the actor that plays Pinhead does a pretty good job in this role. His voice is really high-pitched and dark, and it's really creepy, and I really enjoyed it. He was actually kind of intimidating. I feel like if I came face to face with him, I'd fucking try and run, because he looks really intimidating, he acts really intimidating, and so do the other Cenobites. Granted that only a couple of them just let out high-pitched screeching noises, but god damn it, it's still very nice acting from those people, and they barely say much. Granted, the chick beside Pinhead with the frickin' hole in her throat, she says a few things, but her acting's pretty decent too, I'll admit that. Are there any? Oh yeah, there are a couple of people that help him move, and they're just horny ass moving people. That their acting was pretty trash too. I didn't give a shit about them, so doesn't really matter. Yeah, that's all I really have to say about acting. The acting in this movie was fucking horrible. Besides the Cenobites and that hobo. Moving on to special effects. Special effects here were kind of a 50-50 thing. Half of it was good, like, you have this person, Frank. Most of the movie, he's just like bone, and then he's just like flesh, pure flesh, because his skin was torn off of him in another dimension, and he's just like the cover underneath his skin throughout the whole movie. It looked really cool, and it looks really slimy, and it's really gross, and it's really good. That's one of the positives of the special effects. But then, again, on the other hand, there's this one scene in the movie where Frank comes back, and these things shoot out of the ground in, like, one of the rooms. I think it was the attic, I'm not sure, they don't specify. And at first, I thought it was a giant spider, because that's what the fucking legs look like. But then it shifted. It almost did like this fucking slow motion, stop motion sort of thing, like what they did in the Evil Dead movie. But the difference between this effect and the effect that they did in the Evil Dead movie, they did some stop motion and it looked really cheesy in both movies. But you know what the fucking Evil Dead movie had that this movie doesn't, that made it work? The Evil Dead movie had fucking charm to it. Sam Raimi knew how to take his $100,000 budget, make it cheesy, but still make it fucking charming and lovable. That movie is a classic, and this movie is shit. And the fact that I saw that and I just thought that looked like shit. Yes, I understand this movie was made in the 80s, but the budget to this was at least 3 times higher than what Sam Raimi was working with, and it looks fucking awful. Then you got other problems. You got fucking, there are scenes when hooks are going in people's skin, and it doesn't even look like skin. It looks more like fucking plastic fabric, if anything, and it looks cheap, and it looks really fucking bad. But then you also have some other decent shit, like when the freaking cheating wife bitch smashes somebody she brought for the uncle to feast on in the face with a hammer. It breaks his jaw, it dislocates his jaw, and it knocks his teeth out. It looks really good, and it actually kind of made me fucking feel sick. If they had done more with that, more shit like that, this movie would have looked a hell of a lot more cooler. But they didn't, and they also had a lot more other shit that actually looked kind of decent. Like, there's this point where Christy's in the hospital, she opens up the box. Oh, I'll get to the special effects on that box, by the way. But she opens the box, and it opens this passage in the fucking hospital for whatever the fuck reason. That didn't make much sense. And she goes in it, again, for whatever fucking reason. And she sees this giant-ass creature that has this weird-ass tail and fucking its face is down here and its body's just up here. And it just looked really fucking good and creepy. But as far as that goes, that box special effect looked ridiculously especially cheesy. It looked like they put that magic shit that was going around almost like an electricity sparking off the box. It looked like they put it together within 5 minutes. Oh, another thing. The editing in this movie, I gotta comment on that after. The editing sucked. There were too many scrambling around scenes that did not fit together. I noticed a lot of shit was not in place that one shot than it was in the next. That was ridiculously bad. Oh, the makeup and the special effects makeup, Pinhead and his Cenobites looked really nice. One of them looked like a giant ass worm with its freaking eyes sewed shut and its mouth sewed shut. Pinhead had a bunch of neat freaking needles and shit sticking out of his head. That looked really cool. But as far as special effects go, it was kind of a 50-50 thing. That's one of the only positives I can really give about this movie. Its special effects are partly decent, partly shit. Oh, fucking Christ. Oh, I also have to talk about sound. The sound in this movie was ridiculously off in certain sequences. Part of the time, one character would be talking to another character from the top of the stairs and the bottom of the stairs. I could hear what the person at the top is saying, but I could barely hear the person at the bottom. I don't really know why. That I'm almost positive it's not the computer that I was using, because the computer had a volume up as high as it could go, but I could still probably barely hear the fucking person at the bottom of the stairs. And that happens a few times throughout the movie, and it kind of takes you out of it a bit. Ugh. Fucking Christ, this movie was just... I went in this with hopes that maybe it would be a good movie and I'd enjoy it because I heard this was the best of the franchise. If this was the best that this franchise has to offer me, then I am severely disappointed. So when all is said and done, can I recommend Hellraiser? Fuck no! This movie is fucking horrible, and Clive Barker, the writer and director, can go fuck himself. Well, I think I'm gonna go play GTA. This movie pissed me off, and I need to shoot some things. With that, we come to a close to reaction and review. Oh, and one more thing. When it comes to the other 7 or 8 sequels, I am not fucking watching them. Or if I do watch any of the sequels, it's not gonna be for a long ass time, because this movie was fucking garbage. Now, I'm gonna go fucking shoot some things and get my mind off this piece of trash. That comes to a close of this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Sorry for getting so pissed off. This movie just made me really angry. I'll see you guys again for another episode. Till then, take care, guys, and I'll see you later. Peace out.